Hi, so in this video we're going to be looking at playing out from the back. I've taken a few video clips from WSL games so we can look at how professional goalkeepers and defences deal with playing out from the back. I've focused on when it's not gone so well, so we're going to see mistakes and errors in the clips that we're going to show you. I've also taken a couple of clips from Excel games, so again we can see where perhaps we've had mistakes or unsuccessful playing out from the back. Now, when we think about playing out from the back, we need to think about which players that involves. Principally, we always look at the goalkeeper because that's where playing out from the back tends to start with. But it's important that we also look at our defensive units, our midfield units, and quite often our strikers as well, because the movement and where we are standing on the pitch can assist or have an impact on how we play out from the back. So we're going to look at all those different pieces and how each of us is responsible for that and how we can support the playing out from the back. So in the first instance, what I'd like you to do is just watch the clips through. There's going to be no commentary from myself or from any sound in the background from the actual pitch side commentators in these games. So once you've had a look through the first clip, just have a look at the goalkeeper's positioning, the positioning of the defenders that you can see in the image, how we can support, etc. What I'm going to do is once we've had a look through that once, is I'm just going to slow down and do a little bit of analysis with you so we can actually look at where the mistakes have occurred and how possibly we could have prevented those mistakes from occurring. We're then going to talk about pitch positioning and planning. So how do we want to play out from the back as a team? We're going to look about how we can have a plan that we need to speak to our peers about. So if we're a goalkeeper and we know that we're going to play in a certain way and I want my defence set up so they're in certain positions when I'm taking a goal kick or when there's a back pass, then it's really important that the defenders know that that's my expectation of where I want them. So how do we tell them that? So before a game, maybe we sketch out where we'd like them to be and have a little bit of a briefing with that defensive unit and the goalkeepers. And the same with the midfield units as well and potentially the whole team. So it's really, really important everyone has a really good understanding of how we're going to play. So we're just going to go through that now. If you've got any questions, then let your coach know or speak to me directly. Aston Villa could have actually provided different options to the goalkeeper. So at this point here, we've got a fairly good view of the pitch. So one of the things that the Villa defence could have done is the players made the back pass could make a slightly deeper run, and what that would do is give an option for the goalkeeper to play the ball out wider. Also, there's a big space in here where one of the Aston Villa midfielders, if they had actually dropped back into this space, then there's an option to pass into them. So the goalkeeper could have split the two strikers, ball straight into the middle, and then we can continue with making a further second or third pass into other players. Also, if we look at the fullback, they're quite static. So this player over here, the Aston Villa player, they're quite static from that moment that back pass comes in. You see there's not really any attempt to move. In fact, you can see that they've not really moved at all in the whole time that ball's gone back. If they'd been far more aware of that back pass coming in and what their role and responsibility might be, then there'd be an expectation that they might drop a little bit deeper or come into a little bit of space where they could receive a pass. By staying static as they have, they've almost cancelled themselves out of the game. So they've almost, by not moving at all, they've not given the goalkeeper an option to actually pass them. So think about I suppose one of the takeaways here is think about our own movement. Is there a player around us that is preventing us from receiving the ball? Can I move away from that player to create space so that I can receive the ball and support my colleagues who have got possession of the ball at the current time? So just a couple of things to consider there. What's also interesting is this is two of the top teams in the country playing senior football, and mistakes happen at this level. if people didn't make mistakes, then goals wouldn't go in. But it's quite interesting watching and analysing some of these games to see how goals can be prevented and how goals come about. Slightly different example, involves Aston Villa again, I think. And this one is from a goal kick. We're going to see it again in a second as the clip just winds on. Goalkeeper plays it out to the middle centre back or central midfield player. The ball's bounced back, and the striker has obviously put pressure on the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper's not been able to secure a pass out to another player. We just go back to the setup from that goal kick. So the setup is actually pretty good. There are options available from this goal kick for the goalkeeper. They could play into this player as they did. They've got options to go out to wider players. If they go out to the wider players, it's likely that the opposition players are going to go and put pressure on, which is absolutely fine. But there are options available. So the setup from the goal kick is actually pretty good. And if we look where the goal has resulted from, the player who actually receives the ball has got her back to the rest of the pitch. So she, in essence, can only see, probably with her peripheral vision, into the area here. If she'd actually opened up her body position and changed the angle slightly of her body, ideally we'd like her to be able to see all three of the four corners of the pitch. So if she swiveled her body position around slightly, she would have seen an options where she might have been able to play forward. So we can't see the whole pitch, but for instance, there might have been a player here, and if there had been, it could be that as that ball's come into here, she could have very quickly pushed it out into one of her colleagues, one of the other players here, really, really quickly. However, because she's got her back to goal, she can't see anything that is beyond the box. So she can't see pretty much 3/4 of the pitch are things that she can't see. And really, of what she can see, her options are quite limited. So she can only see the goalkeeper to go and play back to, and potentially to play over to this player. She's probably aware that actually if she does choose to go out to the wider players, that these two players have actually cut off that passing line. So her only really safe option is to do what she did, which is to play it back to the goalkeeper. She probably played it back a bit too slow, which has meant that actually, because this player is already moving forwards and has that acceleration, she's closing that space down really, really quickly. We'll just move the play on a little bit further. So you see there's pressure. And from here, if the goalkeeper can react quickly enough and get to that ball, there are different options where she can secure a pass. Just roll it on a little bit further. At this point, it's probably a 50-50 ball, and actually we see that it's slightly in favour of the striker because of the weight of the pass back from the defender. So we could be potentially looking at, does the goalkeeper go down and try and secure possession of that? Are they able to get their hands on the ball? Yes, it would be potentially a back pass. It might be argued by the referee that actually they've got no option but to go and try and get their hands on the ball. But it would result in an indirect free kick instead of what resulted in the goal. Could they use their feet and slide tackle potentially? Or could they stand up and make a block? Let's just move it on slightly further. So it does actually end up that the goalkeeper has got to the ball quick first. But because of the movement of the striker, the option that the goalkeeper's tried to take of passing over here, that passing lane is blocked. She can't pass it into this player here either, because again that passing lane is blocked because of the movement of the goalkeeper. What might have prevented or given the goalkeeper slightly more options is the movement of these players. And again, if we just rewind it back a little bit further, we can see they're actually quite static. So this player here, and they're the same player as we showed in the last clip actually, and she's adopted the same position. She's on the edge of the area. The position is pretty good, but she's really static again. So she hasn't moved in that whole time the ball's come out. Oops, let's go back a little bit further. So here the ball's played out. If we just keep an eye on that player in the far left-hand corner, very little movement. She's not really on her toes. There's no option to play further back. So from this point here, we know the ball's going to come backwards. We can see that that pressure's being closed back. So this player on this right-hand side could actually just drop a little bit deeper. And if they had dropped deeper, as that pressure's being applied, the goalkeeper's then got an option to play out to them. We'll also look at movement of some of the other players. This player here in the middle, the one who's actually made the back pass, she starts to make a run in this direction, but it's behind the player who's adding pressure. It could be that she drops into here. If she'd done that, that might have been an option for her to receive a pass. But really that passing, that movement that she actually made, that decision she made, doesn't really help the goalkeeper at all because she stood behind the attacking player. Just go back into that clip again. The other option, of course, is the goalkeeper's decision could have been to play out wider here. Again, because of the angle that she's running at the ball, and because of the way that her body's positioned, and because she's right-footed and she doesn't really appear to want to take it on her left foot, the options, or she's not really chosen to take that option. So it could have been an option for her to do that, and actually this player has adopted a really good position to be able to receive the ball. So a couple of bits there to think about. Just looking at one of our Excel games here. So our goalkeeper's secured possession of the ball, made a pass out to the defender. If we just stop the play there, the problem our defender here has got is where's that second pass? Where's the support that she's got from other players around her to be able to secure possession? We can see that we've got one of our own players looking to make a run into this space here, but currently that passing lane is blocked. In an ideal world, what we'd like to see is before that the goalkeeper's released the ball to one of our own players, have we got ourselves available for that secondary pass? So really want a player over here as quickly as possible, as soon as that possession is secured, to be an option to play out. And we want that reflected on both sides of the pitch as well. So we can see that because there wasn't that option to play out wide, then the option that the defender's taken is to go back to the goalkeeper, which is a good decision to make, in the hope that the goalkeeper can then have another pass which they can make in, can secure. Unfortunately, we're quite limited with options here because each of the defenders that we've got is in a position where they're kind of marked by a striker. So if we looked at what we might do differently, then one of the things we can consider is, can we try and lose the markers? Can we adopt a position which might be able to give the goalkeeper a little bit of an option for us. It could mean that actually we come in a little bit deeper here, or we come a little bit wider, or an option here. We've actually got an overload on this side of the pitch now, where that ball has come back in here. On this side, we've actually got 3 players. We're probably a little bit too close here in terms of these 2 players here. So could one of the players actually drop out a little bit deeper and be an option to play out to? So if we did drop off a little bit and we're aware of what's around us, it could be the goalkeeper plays directly into us here. Could also be the goalkeeper has the option to go long. Can they drive the ball over the top of the pressures coming from the opposition and go a little bit longer? We see here we've taken an unfortunate touch and the ball's coming away from the goalkeeper a little bit. We've got pressure. We try to just get that kick in, but the opposition got there. It leads to quite an easy goal, where it was an open goal, unfortunately. So a couple of things there about how we can set up and how we can support the player who receives the ball. But really, if we go back again, just having a quick look back, the pressure really has come from how we've set up once we've released that ball to that first player. So the ball comes into here, and there's not really that option for the player, the defender here, to play a pass so that they can secure possession. So just to reflect again, they can't play in here because that's blocked off. They can't play in here because the attacker putting pressure on here. They can't come into here because of the pressure being put on as well. So the only option available is to go long, which is likely to lose possession, or they've gone back to the goalkeeper, which is probably the right decision to make. But it's then, once that ball's gone back to the goalkeeper, how can we support as a team, the defensive unit and the midfield unit, and indeed the strikers by our movement, how can we give an option to the goalkeeper to pass to us? And just another example here, and if I just pause it here, the setup is really, really good from the goal kick. So if we look at the positions that we've adopted, our 2 centre backs have dropped into really wide positions, which is absolutely fantastic. So the goalkeeper's got options to play out either side. There is a good adoption from the full-backs to be a secondary pass there. We could say they could come out a little bit wider potentially, but you know what? The position they've adopted does mean that if we play out here, we can play immediately out here as well if we need to, or in fact we can go back into the middle section here. One of the midfielders has dropped in to the middle section as well. So again, if we just clear that board actually a little bit, so if the ball does come out into one of the centre backs, and if the opposition try and press that, if the ball does then come back into the goalkeeper, it can be bounced back into the middle player here as an option to play out from as well. So as I say, the setup from the goal kick is really, really good, and we'll just look at what happens from that resulting goal kick. So balls come out, pressure's being applied by the attackers. Decision has been changed from the defender. So the defender was shaping to play the ball out here, which actually would have been a good option. But it's changed their mind. They're aware potentially that there are other players around in that middle area. Maybe they're looking to switch play. But because the pressure's been put on, and because they've not been able to see, it's kind of like a bit of a blind pass that's been played, which has resulted in the opposition coming in, nicking the ball, and therefore scoring. So that's just a little bit of analysis of those 4 goals that are being conceded from teams that are playing out from the back. You may have your own ideas about how we could look to solve those issues. So given different options for the Aston Villa defence and goalkeepers to play out from, how we could have played out differently, potentially as an Excel team as well. And we're just going to look at the setup. One of the things I'd also say is, whilst playing out from the back is really, really productive, because it does mean we keep secure possession of the ball if we do it effectively and if we do it well, there's nothing wrong with goalkeepers and defenders also playing longer balls. So if we are able to play that longer pass, and we think we can secure possession further up the field, then that's an option as well. One of the dangers of playing out from the back is, of course, if you do lose possession of the ball, then you're losing it in and around your penalty area, which most of the time will give the opposition a chance to shoot. If the ball is played slightly further longer, or into the middle of the field, then there's less chance of them scoring, and there's certainly a greater distance they need to cover to be able to be in a goal scoring position. So the variation of not always playing out from the back, from goal kicks, sometimes the option of playing a slightly longer pass is an option as well, and one to consider. So I'm just going to look at a tactics board here, and we're going to look at principally our defensive unit, but also then our midfield and strikers as well. So just going to move the midfield unit out of the way a little bit to start with. So really, where do you want to be? And as we saw from that last clip, some of the good positions to adopt would be for our centre backs to be roughly in line or slightly further behind the penalty spot. You can be inside the area or outside the area, not too far away from the goalkeeper, so they can get a good pace of a pass into those centre backs. We'd then want our full-backs to be quite wide, and to be far enough away from the centre backs so they're able to play the ball forward. Remembering, of course, that we want to be able to have an open body position so that we can see 4 corners of the pitch. So really, our body position, we want to be able to see as many corners of the pitch as possible. Then we look at where do we want our midfielders. So if we're having our defenders in this area here, quite wide, then it leaves potentially a hole in this area here. So what we're going to do is have one of our midfield players, potentially both midfield players, but certainly definitely one midfield player, just dropping into that space. So it could be that we ask our, oops, that's not quite what I was looking to do. It could be that we ask our number 6 to drop into this area here, just to give us some protection and cover in the middle. Or it might be that we actually asked 2 of our midfielders to drop in and provide a shield in that area there. Also, it depends how our opposition is set up. So if our opposition is set up with 2 attacking players who are going to potentially put pressure on the ball as it's played out, then if we've got one of our midfield players in this middle area and we've played out here and there's pressure in here, it does mean if the goalkeeper chooses to play back, there's an option to play the ball back into that midfield player. So it does give us lots of different options by having that cover in place. It also means if actually we lose possession, then we've got a player here who can cover that middle area and try and secure possession back for the team. So one of the things we need to be acutely aware of, and I kind of mentioned it earlier in the video, is everyone needs to be aware of what their role is. So as a goalkeeper, before the game, and the coaches will be explaining how they want you to set up, but you should be talking to your defensive unit and your midfield unit and saying, look, this is how I want to play out from a goal kick, or if I receive a back pass, then my expectation is that you come back into these positions here to give me options to play the ball back out. And I want my midfielders, or one of my midfielders, to drop deeper. Maybe I want one to stay in a slightly higher position, or maybe in fact I want both of them to drop into this area here. That's for your coaches and for the goalkeeper to decide how you want to set up, or collaboratively as a team decide how you want to be able to support each other from that playing out from the back situation scenario. We want one and potentially two of our midfield strikers to stay high up the pitch in this sort of area here. And the reason we want that to happen is we want the defenders from the opposition to have a problem. And the problem we'll be creating is that if we stay high, then they're going to have to stay deep to defend against us. So if we've got one or two players staying high, then we're kind of encouraging the opposition players to stay up in this area of the field. If we drop slightly deeper into here, then we're inviting their fullbacks to come higher up the pitch, and maybe they're only leaving two players. So we've got more pressure and there's less space for us to effectively play out from. So we're trying to create as much space as possible. So we want to stay high, try and create problems for the opposition so they have to keep more players further back up the pitch and away from where we are. So these are just some of the things that we can think about doing. The example I've given here is us playing out as in a 4-4-2 formation. But your coach is going to be working with you once we resume football as to how they would like you to see you playing out from the back, and how we play out or how we keep possession of the ball, how we play when we're out of possession, how we play when we're in possession, and how we transition from in possession to out of possession and vice versa, etc. Hopefully that's useful. Certainly I'd like the goalkeepers and the defenders to think about during this lockdown period how are you going to set up from goal kicks? How are you going to set up if you're in a 4-4-2 formation? How might you set up if you're in a 5-3-2 situation? Think about the different formations and how that might affect the decisions that you make in terms of how you set up on the pitch. So again, if we are playing as a 5 at the back, which players are going to come into those wider roles from those goal kicks? Is it going to be these two players here, and this player in the middle stays in this position? What does that mean for our midfield players? Where do we want them? And again, where do we want our strikers positioned as well? So lots of things to think about. What's quite interesting is when I've gone through some of the game footage for both the 16s and the 14s, is we've conceded about 11 goals from either goal kick scenarios or where we try to play out from the back. So if we can improve that area of how we set ourselves up and how we can think about our movement to support the player who's got the ball, as we saw in those other clips, that could potentially mean that we concede 11 less goals across a season. And bear in mind, we're not even at the halfway point of the season. It could mean up to 22 goals or more could be stopped from going in just by having a really, really good setup and being aware of what's around us and thinking about, I might not be the player on the ball. I might be this number 5 player. So I might not even be the player who receives the ball in the first pass, but I need to be aware of that. And actually, do you know what? If I'm marked out the game, then I'm ineffective. So if I can see that there's a player here, or there's a player who's blocking my passing line so that the ball can't come to me, then can I just shift my position? Can I make a little run across so that actually I can support? So as this player comes in here, then the ball can be played out to here. Or can I come even deeper and be an option here? So there's lots of different solutions to different problems that may present themselves. But we've always got to be thinking as players, even though I'm not the player who's nearest, what impact potentially could I have? I'm in a good position to be able to receive the ball. Can I just check my shoulder? Is there a player behind me? Okay, if there is a player behind me, do I need to move away from them? Do I try and check my run, etc.? Lots of different things to think about, but we all need to be aware that our position, even if we're miles away from where the ball is, still has an impact on the play. So have a think about that. Goalkeepers have a plan. So I'd like to see you turn up at matches and training sessions and be able to say to your defensive unit, this is where I would like you to be. So when the goal kick happens, this is the positions I'd like you to adopt. Midfielders, this is where I expect you to be, and the same with the strikers as well. If we're in this formation, this is my expectation. From a back pass, this is what I'd really like to help support me. Be vocal and communicate. And on the communication front as well, just to add in as a last point really, is communication is really, really key. So when anything we're doing in football, we need information. So the player who's received the ball, who's on the ball, they may not be able to see everything that you can see as a player. So, you know, if you can see they're getting pressure, then maybe you do call man on. Maybe you say to them where you'd like the ball played back to, an option. So, you know, play it back to the goalkeeper. So if the ball came out to number 3, for instance, and there's pressure being applied, maybe there's a shout from one of the other defenders say play back to the goalkeeper, or the keeper saying play it back, I'll have it, because I can see there's an option to play out. I can see there's an option for me if I get the ball back to play out really quickly and switch play, and that gives me an option to play, keep possession of the ball, and actually to give the opposition more issues. So talking to each other is really, really important. And if we watch a lot of the game footage back, sometimes we're quite quiet as teams, and we need to be able to feel confident enough to talk to each other and give people really useful information. So hopefully that's been useful. We're going to do a few more of these little sessions just to get us thinking about football and improvements that we might be able to make when we come back and start playing football, and hopefully that's not too long away. I hope that's been useful, and if you have got any feedback, if there are things that you think I should do differently, if there's ideas that you've seen, if there's things you disagree with, that's all really, really good. So do feel free to feedback into myself or one of your coaches.